globally competitive supply chain. So before discussing the future, let's briefly reflect on the past. We know that palm oil is not foreign to Ghana, it's indigenous to West Africa. And for many generations, it's deeply rooted in local food systems, culture, and rural livelihoods. And in the 19th century, palm oil was one of West Africa's most important exports, and by mid-20th, this region was a global leader. But by the 70s, global leadership had shifted to Southeast Asia, and by the early 2000s, West Africa had become a net importer of palm oil. But now we find ourselves that Africa is actually entering a whole new chapter. And so what we see, and I'm sure you know this, palm oil remains to be the most efficient vegetable oil crop globally. Palm oil produces 6 to 8 times more oil per hectare than any other major oil crop. And on average, oil palm yields about 3.5 to 4 tons of oil per hectare, compared to less than 1 ton for soybean or rapeseed, which obviously the math tells you that palm oil is not just productive, but land efficient as well. For Ghana, your numbers are clear. Domestic production and consumption are rising, but there is a supply gap of around 200 metric tons annually. And the country spends about USD 200 million a year on imports. And so we know that demand is not the problem, but perhaps productivity is. Again, this is another opportunity. With the National Policy on Integrated Oil Palm Development 2026-2032, Ghana has a clear vision to close this gap, to strengthen food security, to create rural jobs, and to reduce import dependency. So palm oil is not just a crop, as we all know, but it is a strategic economic lever. So our first insight. The most important insight from Indonesia and Malaysia is that competitiveness begins with productivity and not just expansion. It's got to be both. Today in Southeast Asia, such as, of course, Indonesia and Malaysia, your two largest palm oil producers, they achieve about 3.5 to 4 tons of oil per hectare, as mentioned. In many producing countries within this continent, Ghana and Nigeria, yields are a little closer to 1.5 tons. And that gap, as I mentioned earlier, represents your opportunity. This transformation that happened in Asia did not come from clearing more land only, but it came from, more importantly, better planting materials, systematic replanting, and strong, good agricultural practices, or GAP. Replanting with improved materials can double your yields within one cycle, and good agricultural practices increases your farmer's income, improves your oil quality, and opens access to higher value markets. And productivity does not stop at your farm gate. Timely harvesting, efficient milling, and reduced waste are equally critical. Next insight. A key sharing from Indonesia and Malaysia is that smallholders were not left at the margins of the industry, but they were systemically integrated into the supply chain. Integration here means more than land ownership. It means access to quality planting material, extension services, organized farmer groups, reliable mill linkages, fair pricing systems, and inclusion and sustainability frameworks. In Indonesia, for example, smallholders manage around 40% of plantation area and contribute over 1/3 of national production. In Malaysia, smallholders manage about 26% of plantation area and contribute about 40% of CPO production. Ghana already has a strong participation, with smallholders accounting for about 77% of oil palm area and produce about 39% of CPO output. The opportunity now is deeper integration. Improving productivity, strengthening your farmer organizations, and aligning commercial models with quality and sustainability. And when smallholders are fully integrated into the supply chain, the entire sector can become more inclusive, more efficient, and more competitive, as mentioned by a lot of the honorables earlier. Insight number 3. When Indonesia and Malaysia expanded their oil palm sectors, they learned a very important lesson. Production growth alone does not guarantee prosperity, but your growth must be synchronized. As production increases, processing capacity must increase at the same pace. If mills are insufficient, fruit weight quality drops and farmers lose income. When capacity is aligned, food is processed quickly and value is protected. For transport and quality, Indonesia and Malaysia operate on the principle that FFB must reach mills within a day, and this required investment in plantation roads, collection centers, and port logistics. With regards to domestic refining before export, instead of exporting crude oil, both producers invest in refining and downstream industries. And this captures more value domestically, creates the jobs that you're looking for here in Ghana, and strengthens industrial capacity. And so both countries, Indonesia and Malaysia, experience periods of rising stock levels when production outpaced export absorption. And so to avoid oversupply bottlenecks, the balanced supply with domestic demand, storage capacity, biodiesel program, and an export plan. Ghana's policy reflects the same understanding. We agree that when plantation, mills, logistics, and refining grow together, the sector then becomes resilient. When they grow separately, inefficiencies follow. Insight number 4. When Indonesia launched Indonesian Sustainability Palm Oil, ISPO, in 2011, and Malaysia introduced the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil, MSPO, in 2013, international scrutiny was intense. In Europe especially, environmental NGOs were raising concerns about deforestation, biodiversity loss, peatland conversion, and haze. Importing markets increasingly demanded traceability, transparency, and third-party verification. And so ISPO and MSPO were designed to formalize compliance with environmental laws, strengthen governance, and systemize responsible production. But the journey did not stop at the launch. With the National Policy on Integrated Oil Palm Development 2026-2032, Ghana has the opportunity to design its sustainability framework from the outset, integrating productivity, smallholder inclusion, traceability, and environmental stewardship in a coherent system. Sustainability, when embedded early and built inclusively, becomes a strategic advantage and not a constraint. Insight number 5, and my final insight. Transformation requires policy certainty and long-term vision, and I believe this is where TCDA comes in. Palm oil is not a short cycle crop. One planting decision lasts about 25 years, and therefore, investors and farmers need clarity, clear land sustainability rules, predictable investment policies, and coherent agricultural frameworks. Indonesia's approach includes National Sustainable Palm Oil Action Plan, Medium-Term Development Plan 2019 to 2029, smallholder replanting, mandatory ISPO, downstream industrialization, and biodiesel expansion. Malaysia, on the other hand, had Agri-Commodity Policy 2030, which prioritizes MSPO certification, replanting aging trees, and higher value palm industries. Ghana's National Policy on Integrated Oil Palm Development reflects similar objectives. It tells farmers and investors this is not a short-term initiative. This is a national commitment to sustainable, job-creating growth. And with policy certainty, your sector can grow with confidence, and this long-term vision is critical. 2 more slides, hang in there with me. As we conclude these practical insights from Indonesia and Malaysia, let me share the broader context faced by the palm oil industry today, the palm oil producing countries today. So across producing countries, we face common challenges. Firstly, the trade barriers are increasing. We also see sustainability requirements becoming more complex. Compliance costs are rising. Smallholders, who must be integrated in our sector, struggle with yield gaps, low replanting rates, and limited access to finance. At the same time, negative perceptions and regulatory pressures shape global market access. These issues directly affect competitiveness and rural livelihoods, and this is where the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries, or CPOPC, steps in. In 2022, we disseminated the story of Mrs. Ruth Saki from, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Ofoese Panin during the International Day of Rural Women, highlighting how women in Ghana's oil palm sector, strengthen rural livelihoods and manage both plantations and mills. We also recently facilitated TCDA's visit in Malaysia to Carey Island. SD Guthrie from Nizam is here, and where SD Guthrie shared insights into their growth over the decades and welcomed a good working relationship with TCDA. This democratization of knowledge within producing countries is what's going to bring us together. And these are just very small examples of how producing countries cooperation takes action. And so Ghana's national policy of 2026-2032 is in fact a really bold step to turn your red gold into a powerhouse of jobs and industry, and the Council stands ready to continue accompanying Ghana on this journey. And so what we have started together is only the beginning. The real opportunity is to scale this collaboration so that Ghana's red gold becomes not only a national success story, but a regional model of inclusive and competitive growth. And in that spirit, I hope you don't mind that I'm sharing this. CIPOPSI, we are convening our 4th Sustainable Vegetable Oil Conference in Nanning, China, September 2026, where we connect policy, trade, and sustainability realities, bringing government and industry together to ensure that sustainability strengthens and not undermines food security and market stability. And we would be honored, Dr. Andrews, to welcome Ghana's policymakers and industry leaders to contribute to our dialogue. Ghana has the vision, and your opportunity is real. And CIPOPSI, the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries, we stand ready as a committed partner in building a resilient, competitive, and sustainable palm oil future. We stand ready to welcome Ghana as CIPOPSI next member country very soon. Thank you very much.